This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast is brought to you in partnership with ministryleague.com. We would love for more people to discover this show, so please rate and review us on iTunes or your podcast provider. Feel free to share on your social media and subscribe at benandtravis.com for the free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living. A lot of people that I deal with anger issues, that's one of the first things I talk about is what do you actually control? Because if I think I can control everything, or am I trying to control everything and everything's out of control, there's where that negative, unhappy stuff comes from. And if I can recognize that, okay, what is it that I influence? One of the first things they teach people in AA and any kind of recovery program is God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, the serenity prayer. And, if I can sort of understand those things, the wisdom to know the difference in what I can change, what I can't change, it makes a big difference. You mentioned, Will, a little bit ago, A plus B equals C. And I think we've mentioned that. It was in an article not long ago, but the idea is if A is what happens to me and C is how my life turns out, A doesn't equal C. It's A plus B, which is the way I perceive it and the way that I interpret it. That's what my life ends up being. So if A is the things that happen or something somebody says or something somebody does, and B is the way I interpret that, that's how the rest of my day or week or year or life goes. And when you start looking at people, a lot of the people we've had on here have had hard times, difficult stuff. Some of us went and listened to Elizabeth Smart, went through some crazy stuff in her life. And, you hear her talk and she's in a pretty good place. And even as she was going through those things, seemed like she had a pretty good mindset, and it was horrific, but she could have been, hey, the things that happened to me equals my life. But instead it was the way she saw it, the way she interpreted it, the way she kind of used it turned out a whole lot different than what it looked like it would have.
You kind of did what I was going to ask you to do with Paul in Philippians 4 on the A plus B equals C, so as an example, with Paul there in Philippians, he says about fixing his mind, fix your thoughts. This is New Living Translation on what is true, honorable, and right, and pure, and lovely, and admirable. Think about these things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice all you've learned and received from me. And so, you have this guy sitting in a, hole in the ground. Some people think he might have been blind at this point. Somebody else is actually writing by hand. So, kind of use the Apostle Paul here in the A plus B equals C as another example, as you did so well with Elizabeth there.
Well, yeah, you got Paul who, the book of Philippians, you can actually flip through Philippians and you see joy mentioned or rejoicing mentioned more than any other place in the Bible, I guess per word or whatever. He mentions it over and over and over again, and he's in a cell. So if A is what happens to me, here I am in a cell, most of us would go, well, my day's going to be shot. My week's going to be shot. My year's going to be shot. What a miserable existence I have, and we would sit there and be Eeyores the entire time because life is miserable. But Paul says, hey, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. And over and over again, he talks about being thankful. You mentioned it earlier. It's even in this book where, hey, there's people preaching things and they're saying harsh things against me. But even in that, I'm going to rejoice because Christ is being preached. And so even in that is another one. Hey, people are saying ugly things about me, so life is terrible. No, for Paul, it was people are saying ugly things, but my interpretation is that's not really my concern. They're preaching about Jesus. So I'm going to be excited about it. And I'm going to be excited in it. And so my day's not going to be ruined by it. And so he kind of sums it all up at the end of Philippians when he says, look, focus on these things. I want you to focus on the good and the right and the lovely. And he goes on into verse 10, he says, but I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now at last you've revived your concern for me. So there's that thing we talked about at the beginning of having other people around us. And he says, not that I speak from want in 11, for I've learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. I know how to get along with humble means. I also know how to live in prosperity in any and every circumstance. I've learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. And sometimes we use that passage about I can do all these great things. The context of the passage is if I'm hungry, I can still survive that and get through it because I've got Christ. If I've got a little bit of stuff or I've got a lot of stuff, I'm able to do it. Battles and blessings is something I've, talked about a lot different times. Regardless of whether I'm going through battles or I'm going through blessings, I remember Jesus. And that's that B part of my mindset, my interpretation, my perception of what's going on. That's what helps make that connection to, what my life ends up being.
I would say too, and I know that we're very much a Christian group and podcast, and we definitely want to push Jesus, but you see people go through all of these tough things, these people that we've had on the podcast, different family members, whoever it is, and all of them have one huge thing in common is that they recognize who Jesus is in their life. And I've heard so many people say, I've heard Lindsay say, like, can't lose 3 family members in a year and a half and not make it without Jesus and not wake up and still smile and go through all of those things. And so I think it would, in my mind, we would fail as a podcast to not go, look, hey, Jesus is a huge source of all the happiness that the 3 of us have and that a lot of people that we talk to have, because you mentioned Paul right there. He goes, hey, to live is Christ and to die is gain. I am happy because I have the opportunity to live. And by living, I get to influence others for Jesus. And if I die, everything's going to be phenomenal. And so looking at that, it's, man, the power of Jesus is a pretty incredible thing when it comes to being in that mindset that Romans 12, pushes us to have.
It's about living selflessly versus living selfishly. Mm-hmm. I've determined my life is not about me. And there's probably people outside of Jesus that can determine that as well.
Right.
It just has to be about, family or community or something else. Yeah. Everybody talks about, in AA, they talk about higher power, mm-hmm. just that the higher power, whatever that is, it was started as a Christian organization. So we know what that higher power was.
Yeah.
But some people connect to community and some people connect to other things. But certainly for us, we understand that higher power, if you got a rock climber and they're being, they're going to be secured, not at a lower point, but at a higher point. Mm-hmm. And you're always going to be secured there. So if you fall, it catches. And so you've always got that higher point holding you. And I think that's what we have. Yeah. And we certainly love to share with people about that. But being connected to where it's not, if it's just about me, I'm going to probably be pretty negative most of the time.
Yeah. Connecting to something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Just gives fulfillment in my mind.
Yeah. I think that Holy Spirit, that's the, I've surfed burnout before. It's been a long time. Now it's just, I'm just mentally tired. The flesh is weak, spirit's willing, flesh is weak. And, I've learned and still learning of what is my business and what can I really affect and what is not, mm-hmm. I do in fact have a circus and sometimes it is my monkeys, but when it's not, I've learned to be able to go, those are not my monkeys. This is my circus, but that's not my monkeys.
Not mine.
I got 2 at home. And so, understanding and believing that the universe, and not to get too cosmological here, but the universe has a purpose, and that is to claim the glory and praise of God. And he's given us the spirit to keep our soda from going flat or exploding. We have that ability to, and here's my Romans 8, for it to intercede for us when we don't have the words. And so I think happiness is great. Joy is even better, but also understanding you have that outlet that's not only a way to let go of some of that energy, but it's also an energy source itself. So I think the Holy Spirit's really awesome in that. But I will say you guys have given not only you've got a podcast day, but you just got like a sermon outline if you need one. Ben.
Well, I was gonna kind of say this too. One of the most important things to remember, and a lot of people struggle with this, who are having suicidal thoughts, who are having, depression, different things, nothing lasts forever. The situation you find yourself in is temporary. And so even if we can make that argument, life is temporary. The things that, the suffering we're going through now is nothing compared to the eternal weight of glory that's prepared for us, Second Corinthians chapter 4, the end of it. But, even, the job loss, it feels like, a heavy burden on you. It's temporary. There'll be another job, a breakup. It's temporary. There'll be another relationship. The workplace environment, those things can change. And so just recognizing that whatever situation you're finding yourself in that is negative or is unhappy, it will not last forever. There are some answers to it. And so you got people who can help you. You got people who can encourage you. So connect to those people. And we hope that you guys find that. And if you have questions, hey, we have emails and we have ways that you can, reach out to us. And then we've got sources all over the place that we can try to send you guys to, preachers or counselors or whatever, if there's something that you guys need.
Ben,
listen.
Go ahead.
I was about to say, listen to the former episodes on the podcast.
Yeah.
Like when I listen to some of those stories, I go, man, my struggles are not very big, and the things that make me unhappy are not, those people would switch lives with me today, to not go through what they are going through. And so I think hearing other people's stories allows you to realize too, man, I'm having some hardships here, but my life is wonderful, and there's a whole slew of episodes that have happened that have given me that perspective, day in and day out.
I think Paul, once again, I'll read some of his letters to the Corinthians. They're like, my church ain't got no problems. What you talking about, man?
Not compared to that.
I'm not assisting, ministering in that whole stuff. So, hey, what do you know? We rejoice. And again, I say rejoice. I was saying, you guys have gotten a couple of outlines out of this podcast. So, where else you can get an outline, Ben? Patreon.com. Ben and Travis. We'd love for you to check that out. Get some extra content, all that good stuff. We've had rave reviews so far. So if you need somebody to tell you how good it is, we can put you in the right direction. But love for you to check that out. All right, guys, as we like to do, we're going to wrap up with a fun question. These are all, by the way, the fun questions these episodes have been brought to you from Instagram. Morgan Gafford, Carly Freeman, who also won a t-shirt at Erupt. Shout out to you guys for a fun question from last episode and also this one. But what is your favorite cereal growing up? So we're not talking about the stuff we eat now to keep us regular. We're talking about, except for you, Will, your innards still work the way they're supposed to, young buck.
That's fantastic.
But we're talking about you're getting up. It's flashback. We're going 30 years ago, Will, for you 10 years ago.
I was about to say I was 1 year old.
10 years ago. You're getting up Saturday morning and the cartoons are on. Ben and I, G.I. Joe is on. And, whatever else, Transformers.
He-Man.
You're going for the dry cereal, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, any of that stuff.
X-Men.
You're just eating it straight up out the box. You're fixing to watch the X-Men get took to the house by every villain they fight until the last 30 seconds, and then they come back and win.
That's right.
That was always annoying to me. But what cereal are you going with, Ben?
No questions asked. Lucky Charms.
Oh, marshmallows.
Marshmallows.
Hard to beat, though.
Yeah, and then most of the time there was still some of the cereal actually left. So if you're really getting at the question, I don't really eat the cereal as much as I ate the marshmallows.
So specifically marshmallows
yeah, it's Lucky. It's still Lucky Charms. I mean, I still if Lucky Charms are in the house, they're probably getting eaten by me.
Didn't they come out with just a box of the marshmallows?
You can buy like
I think so.
5-pound bag off of Amazon.
That would kill me.
Oh yeah.
To now, like it would kill me. I would be dead. Well, how do you go out? The bag of marshmallows.
The bag of Lucky Charms marshmallows.
Yeah. How about it, Will? Which one?
For me, growing up, every day Fruit Loops. That's just.
I like Fruit Loops.
That's just what we had. I don't know if that was because we were too poor to buy Lucky Charms. I don't know if that was like
they're like the same amount.
I don't know.
Now we would buy the off-brand sometimes, but it was.
I don't know if there was a price difference there. Mom just started, Fruit Loops were there, and that's what it was. In a close second, if I was at my grandparents' house, it was the Frosted Flakes with bananas in it.
Frosted
Flakes. Bananas.
But somebody gave away Fruit Loops at Trunk or Treat, and Amy was like, "What are these?" And so I just ate them all. So Fruit Loops.
I'm gonna go, Ben. I mean, Will, I'm just more and more. I'm like in line with you, brother. I'm going Fruit Loops, or I'm going Apple Jacks, man.
I was gonna say you have to go Apple Jacks.
But I'm gonna tell you something. There's something special about some the Kix. Like Kix never had anything in it. Like it just had just enough sugar.
Yeah,
that brought you coming back for more. Or Trix. I'll special shout out, but Trix, Fruit Loops, Apple Jacks. I would roll with those. And here's the thing, guys. Like Cheerios in a snack cup, like at church. Like what was the deal there? Like on a regular random day, like Cheerios, man, church. Somebody busts out something with some Cheerios, and it's like, I don't know. Like it's almost like got a special little taste to it. Like we're partaking in communion, but not yet.
I was about to say it's the appetizer to the Lord's Supper. That's what
maybe.
That's what
maybe we just felt like I'm not old enough. I'm not taking communion, but I do get some Cheerios.
I mean, but you throw the Honey Nut Cheerios in there.
Well, that was always the shock. Like you go in thinking you're getting like just the regular Cheerios, and you reach in there and pull out one of them Honey Nut deals, and you're like, somebody went uptown this week.
It was real nice, Clark. Real nice.
The shelf life of Cheerios must be impressive for how long they stay in.
It's got to be
the diaper bags and stuff.
Yeah, maybe that's it. The staying power. It's like the weeks and weeks of natural air that brought a level of perfection.
Can't do that with marshmallows.
And I'll be honest, I used to work it, man. I would milk it. I'll say this, like Ben was kind of particular about who he spent time with at church. Like it was Mimi or, Mary or, his mom, maybe a few others. Creasy's going down. It's like trunk or treat every week at church, man. Like
whoever's got something in the purse, I'm
the reason why we grew up. Don't talk to the guy in the white van. Don't talk to the don't accept candy from strangers. Because I just go down. Like I'll take some gum from you. Thank you. I'll take and I had the stuff.
Well, the worst story, and I have to share this before we close. One of the worst memories I have of childhood is us eating cereal and then like walking away from it at like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning. We've watched these, episodes of cartoons, and then we're like, let's go play football. So we go play football for 3 hours. We come back in at lunch, and Travis goes immediately to the cereal and starts eating it out of the bowl that's been sitting there for 3 hours and finishes off his cereal. And at that point, the Cheerios are no longer this size. They've like turned this big, and they're just like soggy. And he sits there and eats the rest of his cereal. And I was like, I wanted to gag, and I wasn't even eating it. I was just watching him eat it.
Nothing going to waste.
Just that, when leukemia invaded my body, they looked around, they saw that cereal from, 50 years ago. It was like, we have no hope here. It's just, they just started beating down leukemia, And so that's how I survived, You've seen the memes where like COVID walks in, and it's like the Flintstone gummies from 30 years ago. They're just beating the tar out of them. That's my cereal from,
COVID can't get me because I ate 4-hour-old cereal. in the
Not
middle.
challenging anybody. Well, guys, it's been a blast. Thank you for taking time to hang out. I needed it, and maybe I'll be a little bit more happy now. Ready to thrive in your ministry work? Heritage Christian University has just released their upcoming spring semester course offerings. Courses such as History of the Bible with Wayne Kilpatrick, Marriage and Family Counseling with Jeffrey Brothers, or Acts with Justin Guin. To see all the classes available, visit www.hcu.edu or email media@hcu.edu for more information. Nearly all of these classes were created to be taken remotely, so no matter your schedule or location, you can be a part of learning more about the Bible this year. The deadline to apply is December 1st, so don't wait. Apply today.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.